Hello and welcome to another video so we're taking a look at a Cocytus dragon. This is probably the more popular variation of dragon right now, no surprise there, as it is quite strong with, of course, Rose being added, and even Steel-clad Minotaur. I've actually wasn't so keen on the card to begin with, but in dragon it does make a lot of sense, considering you do have that ramp and pretty decent early game with that 4-drop excel giving you a couple of defensive wards. But particularly, of course, the +2 every time it's attacked protects you from a lot of decks, especially things like a Portalcraft, which of course is running rampant right now. So this deck has been reasonably solid for me. You do only need to run one White Frost. That seems to be the way to go. A lot of decks that I've seen typically are dropping that down. This deck also runs a single Tallock. It's coming quite handy, actually, surprising, but honestly you could probably drop that for another White Frost, swap them around however you want it depending on the meta. So we're going to get right into this and check it out. So this deck hasn't been too bad at all, honestly. I've had a lot of fun with it. It's been a pretty straightforward deck. Not much has changed for Cocytus overall. Really, I've just kind of filled it out with cards that are reasonably popular still, and of course tried out those couple of new cards. In particular, the ramp card is great, and the new legendary isn't bad. It's just kind of average. I think if we end up in a meta with a lot of course low cost drops, then it could be a lot better, but even then it might be a little slow. So definitely an interesting one to mess around with. So of course you are aiming to ramp as much as possible, as quickly as possible. And when you're in a dragon matchup, that is what you want to do 99% of the time. Usually I'll even forego a couple of hits to face if it means that I can ramp more favorably. I mean, I was looking forward to doing a blood video relatively soon, but I don't think that's going to happen. I was messing around after getting these games ready and had no luck with blood for quite a while. So maybe we'll switch over to something like Dark Feast instead of buff going forward over the next couple days, and I'll see if I can get a video of that for you. That might be a little bit better. So really all we've done now is ramp while controlling the board, and Rose does a wonderful job of both of those options normally. Of course, typically I do use her early, but she's still half decent in the late game, which makes her an all-around good card. Dragon Sword I've actually found I've been using less and less, but it's always nice to have it there, so I'm wondering whether it might be worth dropping that down to 2, but I'd have to do a little testing to work out whether I'd be happy with that. Since as you can see here, it does play a pretty decent role. So we're already at 9 in this basically mirror match. And since we don't need the ramp anymore, so we can just kind of flood the board. Omen of Disdain won't quite get the board clear here, but definitely puts them close. Definitely a good sign for us. Also gives us a chance to have a free Prince play without any real drawback. Which is exactly what you want to do against a Dragon Mirror. One of the first games that I actually lost against Dragon Mirror come right down to the wire with both players playing the good old Cocytus, but of course I lost because I went second and they had a little bit of priority. Overall though, not bad. I did decide to go for the Tallock instead of the 8-drop. I wanted to save that in case they go for another wide board. Plus, this actually isn't that bad an option since we can actually deal with these okay. I probably could have done that a bit better and got a full clear, I think, because of course the 1 extra damage burst would have done it, but slight misplay since I hadn't really used the card. This is one of the first times I got to make decent use of it. And again, probably not the best way to use this card, but I mean, it worked, so that was the main thing. Now at this point, we only really need to draw a finisher. So no Disdain into Ranging Dragon. That's not bad for them, being able to of course remove this and heal up. But we have a instant board clear, leaving them with just a couple of cards in hand to work with. So they are going to be able to remove this 8-drop, which is a little bit of a bad move for me. But at the same time, not the worst. We've got a couple of options here, and I don't mind having options. Heaven's Fall gives us a draw, which is definitely beneficial. The banish all enemy amulets isn't great, but of course the storm is. This will stop any potential Azeroth Reckoning play from killing us off. That's all we really need to buy time for. And I decided to favour the discard a card mechanic over going for, of course, the 7-drop. Scorpion of Greed. Not really another problem. I mean, 9 damage definitely hurts if they had have went face, but obviously they couldn't afford to do that. We finally get our own Azeroth Reckoning, but it's a little too slow. And we get our chance to heal back up ourselves. Definitely going 1 for 1 with this hand. At least they were the ones top decking though, which definitely gave us a pretty decent edge. Now we're up against one of the most popular decks in the current meta, and that is a Portalcraft. In particular, purple portal decks have been the most popular, but there are some artifact variations on that, using the, of course, the Maisha finisher and the Omen finishers and things like that. I've actually been messing around with a artifact deck that I'm hoping will make it for next video. That's primarily Maisha based and not so much Omen. Does make it a little bit cheaper at least. And then I'll probably have a more traditional Puppet Omen deck in a few days after that, I reckon, as we go into probably week 2 or 3 of the mini expansion. Probably in a week 2. 7 of Disdain, not a bad way to go for turn 2. I mean, it does counter the 2/2, even though they did end up using the Substitution. But we can instantly go for another 7, plus of course our Rend, giving us an extra draw and setting us up with a nice little body. In these portal matchups, all you can really do is hope for the best. That's sucky to say, but unfortunately the truth. They didn't really leave me many options going into turn 4 though. I would have probably liked to have ramped, but at the same time, I'd like to get an early enough setup because turn 5 I can actually wipe a board, which would be much more effective long term. There is the Maisha, Hero of Purgation. Going for the early setup and an entity. Interesting, that definitely, of course, leads you to believe they're going for the Deus Ex Machina play next turn. And now we pretty much just go for the Anrose, why not? No real reason to play anything else from here. So the Deus Ex Machina will probably end up trading. I mean, you're going to be killing off one of these 2 followers. I would lean towards the bigger one, but of course they didn't. They targeted the smaller. Might be their downfall, looking at our current hand situations. We can actually go for another ramp, and another 2 ramp if we really want to, taking us to 10 play points in the next turn. While at the same time, of course, being able to draw and get our Rend going to wipe this out and go face for 3 damage. Since of course they are negating a reasonable chunk of it. Mystic Artifact though, not really a big problem right now, since we do have of course the Poseidon Raging Dragon combo. So we are going to wipe this board clean. As long as we can win before turn 10, before a big Maisha, that's all you really need to manage against Portal. So they were playing, of course, an artifact variant. This is actually very similar to the variant I want to be showing off in hopefully the next video. But we'll see, of course, how things go for that. So we're going to wipe this board clean and get 4 damage to face. And pretty much set up for lethal from there on, of course. They end up conceding, because who wouldn't at that point, with 3 turns to go. So last game was certainly rough for the Portal player. Like I said, typically fine. Defeating them before turn 7 is the most important, and being able to, of course, develop strong boards before they can go for any kind of Omen play, if you are going up an Omen variant, is quite handy. You can't always win because, of course, they have amazing puppet generation and good counters. It can be very hard, of course, to build that board, get on there, and really deal with them, but this deck does a fairly good job of that. And Ultiplane Arbiter is actually been a pretty nice card to use in this deck, typically along with the Steelclad Minotaur. Both do serve nice roles. You didn't get to see that in this video, but we did get to show off Talok, which is actually quite fun to use, even as a one-off. So if you guys did enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more content. You'll find the deck list in the description below. Until next time, see ya.